Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. And Dynamite tonight was a good show, in my opinion. It was a very enjoyable show. Tonight on Dynamite, we had the AEW in-ring debut of Adam Cole, baby! And he ended up facing Frankie Kazarian. We had FTR versus Dante Martin and Matt Sydal tag team match. We had the impressive Jay Cargill. She ended up facing Layla Hirsch. Darby Allin was in action where he ended up facing Shawn Spears. And the main event, we saw Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley versus 2.0. But overall, Dynamite tonight was a good show. And a few of my friends went out there to the show tonight. And we saw Grimm's Toy Show sitting in the front row. He appeared on TV tonight. One of my friends who was sitting in the front row actually also appeared on TV. So it was awesome to see. It was awesome to see my friend appear on TV quite a few times. But before I get into the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video, I did a movie review of The Incredible Mr. Limpet, starring the late great Don Knotts, Carol Cook. Check out my review of that if you guys haven't seen it. Love the film. It's a fun film for the family and for the kids. Came out in 1964. So definitely check out my review of that if you guys haven't seen it. But let's jump right into the Dynamite review. So Dynamite tonight opened up with CM Punk. CM Punk was on commentary for the show, and we had him heading out on stage, and he got a big ovation, of course, from the Jersey crowd. So Punk ended up doing a stage dive. He ended up making the leap from the stage into people in the crowd. And Punk ended up doing a lap around the ring. And we had him go up to the commentary table. He joined Excalibur and Tony Schiavone and JR, Jim Ross. So this is not the first time Punk has been on commentary. Of course, when he was in WWE, he actually did commentary. And CM Punk is a good commentator, in my opinion. Very entertaining to listen to, even while he's not competing in the ring. You know, he does a good job with commentary also. You know, at that point where years from now, if he retires, he should just join the commentary table, AEW commentary table, and do some commentary for them. Because he's like Jericho, he's like Taz, where they're all good doing commentary. And they're, entertaining to listen to whenever they're doing commentary. And then we had the first match, which was the AEW in-ring debut of Adam Cole, baby, versus Frankie Kazarian. This was a good AEW in-ring debut for Adam Cole. So we had Adam Cole end up coming out first. Frankie Kazarian then came out. So the match got underway. Frankie Kazarian ended up dropping Adam Cole with a shoulder block. And he ended up delivering a drop-toe hold into a side headlock on Adam Cole. Cole then lifted up Frankie Kazarian. He ended up sending Kazarian from the ring down to the mat. He ended up catching Kazarian on the apron. Cole ended up whipping Kazarian into the edge of the ring. So he brought Kazarian back to the ring. And we had the fans cheering for Adam Cole. And they were booing Frankie Kazarian. And Kazarian was on the apron. He delivered a punch to Adam Cole's face and then a leg lariat. He ended up getting caught with a boot to the face by Adam Cole. Cole then did a reverse chin lock, which Kazarian ended up reversing it. He ended up chopping away on Adam Cole. So Kazarian ended up dropping Adam Cole down with a roll-up. Cole ended up kicking out at 2, and then he went right into a submission. He ended up stretching out Adam Cole's arms. So Adam Cole then got back up. He ended up delivering an upkick to Kazarian's face. Cole ended up catching Frankie Kazarian and delivered a knee breaker over the back of Kazarian's head. He went for the cover. Kazarian kicked out at 2. So we had Frankie Kazarian come back. He delivered a German suplex with the bridge on Adam Cole, and Cole ended up kicking out at 2. So Adam Cole ended up catching Frankie Kazarian with a super kick. He went for the cover. Kazarian ended up kicking out at 2. And there was a point right here on commentary where Punk was saying about how he wanted to face Adam Cole in the near future. And that would be a great match right there. CM Punk and Adam Cole. Money-making match there. So hopefully that happens sometime down the line. Maybe it will happen next year. Love to see CM Punk go at it with Adam Cole. Like I said, money-making match there. That should be a main event to one of AEW's pay-per-views, whether it's Revolution or at All Out for next year. I definitely see that happening. Back to the match. Adam Cole went up to the second rope. He was looking to go for the Panama Sunrise, but he ended up getting caught by Frankie Kazarian, which Kazarian then delivered a spine buster on Adam Cole and a springboard leg drop. Kazarian went for the cover. Adam Cole ended up kicking out at 2. So both Cole and Kazarian were going back and forth trading shots. Cole ended up avoiding a leg drop from Frankie Kazarian, and Cole got in the Panama Sunrise, and he ended up hitting shots to the back of Kazarian's head, and he went for the cover, and there you go. Adam Cole ended up winning the match, winning his AEW in-ring debut. Post-match, Cole got on the mic, and he ended up saying that hope can be a dangerous thing. He wanted to say that since he walked in to AEW, 3 people have already gotten under his skin. Those 3 people are Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy. Cole ended up saying that if Christian, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy are so tough, how about we have a match next week on Rampage, where it will be him and the Young Bucks taking on Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy. So there you go. There's your match set up for next week on Rampage. But overall, this was a good match from Adam Cole and Frankie Kazarian, and a good win for Adam Cole's AEW in-ring debut. And I see a bright future with Adam Cole in AEW. I see a bright future for him here. So then it was announced that the Butcher and the Blade are going to be facing the Lucha Brothers, Penta and Phoenix, this Friday on Rampage. So there you go. There's your match for Friday. So it should be a good match there. So then we went backstage, and Fuego del Sol and Sammy Guevara were backstage. Fuego ended up showing off his car that he picked up since signing with AEW. Yeah, remember when Sammy Guevara ended up bringing out the contract for Fuego after he lost the match to Miro for the TNT Championship? So he bought a car since signing. So good on him. Good on Fuego. Fuego ended up deciding to put up his car to get another shot at the TNT Championship against Miro this Friday on Rampage. So right there, Fuego's going to lose his car right there. Miro's going to win the match, still retain the TNT Championship, and Fuego's car is going to be gone. It's going to be going to Miro. So there you go. We'll be seeing that on Friday. So then we had MJF. MJF headed out to the ring, got big boos from the Jersey crowd. MJF got on the mic. He kept saying that fans were so sympathetic last week to him, trashing Brian Pillman Jr.'s family, and also him. He kept saying now he stands in the armpit of New Jersey. So MJF was shitting on Jersey. We had the Jersey crowd chanting "shut the fuck up" to MJF. So MJF, in retaliation to the crowd, ended up saying no. MJF ended up saying that he'd like to have a conversation with the late, great Brian Pillman. So we had MJF end up looking up, and he then says, "Oh, who am I kidding?" So MJF then ended up looking down. He ended up saying, "Hey Pillman, we have to talk," which got boos from the crowd. So MJF disrespecting the late great Brian Pillman. You gotta love MJF. The guy is a great heel. When you have fans booing the hell out of you, you know right there that you're doing a great job, in being a heel. And MJF ended up pulling a Randy Orton here. If you remember when Randy Orton was in his feud with Rey Mysterio, this happened on SmackDown, where both Orton and Mysterio were in the ring. This was after Eddie Guerrero passed away, where Randy was like to Rey, "Oh, Eddie is in hell." So there you go. MJF took a page out of Randy Orton's book when Randy Orton did that back in 2006. So MJF ended up saying that Brian Pillman Jr. is the second worst generation wrestler, and that he wants to tell Pillman that if he shows up in Queens, he's getting taken out. So he ended up saying, "Pillman will find out I'm better than you," and you, which Brian Pillman Jr. ended up coming out. So MJF ended up sending Wardlow up the ramp. Brian Pillman Jr. ended up running from the other side, and he nearly used a chair on Wardlow. Wardlow went back in to stop Brian Pillman Jr. Pillman ended up getting a swing on Wardlow. He then charged into him, but Pillman ended up going low on Wardlow to get rid of him. MJF and Wardlow end up barking at Brian Pillman Jr. And that was how the segment ended. But this was a really enjoyable segment. Gives us hype for the match with MJF and Brian Pillman Jr. And then MJF trashing the Jersey crowd. That was pretty funny. Like I said, when you're playing your heel role right and the fans boo you and you get a ton of boos, you're doing your job right. So a good segment from MJF. So then we went to JR. Jim Ross talked with Brian Pillman Jr. This was shot earlier in the day. So Jim Ross ended up talking with Brian Pillman Jr. about being worried about MJF last week. Pillman ended up saying that he felt embarrassed for what happened to him. So JR was like, "Are you going to whoop MJF's ass? Because that's what it's going to take." Pillman ended up saying that last week he felt like he let down his dad. He kept telling MJF they are not the same, and that he has never been in the ring with a guy like him. So he ended up saying that he may look a certain way, but he had a feral upbringing. And Pillman ended up saying that he plans on taking out MJF. So there you go. Pretty good sit-down interview with Brian Pillman Jr. And then we went backstage. Alex Marvez was talking with the Jurassic Express and Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy ended up saying to Alex Marvez that there's been a whole lot of fuss between the two groups. He ended up going to talk, and Christian Cage ended up saying that he actually has good friends who saved him from developmental, which that right there is a shot at NXT. So Christian ended up saying that Adam Cole knows what it's like to lose the Wednesday Night Wars. There you go. Another shot at NXT. And he ended up saying now it will be on Fridays. Meaning it's going to take place on Rampage. So there you go. That was that. Taking shots at NXT right there. And then we had FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, versus Dante Martin and Matt Sydal. Of course, FTR came out with Tully Blanchard. This was a good tag team match here, very enjoyable. So we had Dante Martin and Matt Sydal start off the match, delivering a double drop kick on Dax Harwood. Dante Martin ended up going up to the apron. He was looking to go for the springboard on Harwood, but Cash Wheeler ended up delivering a kick to Dante Martin, which sent him down to the floor. We had some back and forth going. We had Dante Martin end up getting the blind tag, delivered a huge springboard drop kick to both FTR. We had the match ended with Dante Martin. He ended up trying to avoid both Harwood and Wheeler, but he ended up taking the big rig, which he went for the cover, which the FTR went for the cover. And there you go. FTR ended up winning the match. Overall, good tag team match from both FTR, Dante Martin, and Matt Sydal. So then we went to commentary, and they were talking about the Minoru Suzuki incident that happened last week, where CM Punk ended up talking about what happened about Minoru Suzuki feeling insulted that his entrance was cut short last week. And yeah, some entrances on last week's Dynamite were cut short because of time. So apparently Minoru Suzuki did not like that. He did not like that his entrance was cut short. So that is what this whole Suzuki incident is about. It's been a meme on social media. So there you go. Just a little bit of the Suzuki incident, which, alright, his entrance was cut short. So what? It was due to the time. But then we saw Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki. They were talking about Moxley and Eddie Kingston. Lance Archer ended up talking about how they are Suzuki Gun members from New Japan and plan on showing them what strong style is all about. They plan to show Moxley and Eddie Kingston what strong style is all about. So Archer then ended up challenging them to a tag team match next week at Grand Slam, Dynamite Grand Slam from Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens. So next week we're going to have Grand Slam Dynamite there at Arthur Ashe Stadium, and also Rampage will be taking place from Arthur Ashe Stadium. And Rampage is going to be 2 hours next Friday. There you go. We're going to have 4 hours of wrestling next Friday, with SmackDown for 2 hours and Rampage for 2 hours. So 4 hours of wrestling next Friday. Help us. Help us all with 4 hours of wrestling, even though Rampage might be the better show. So then we went back to the ring, and the lights go out in the arena, and as the lights come back on, Malachi Black was there. Malachi Black was sitting on the stage. He then made his way to the ring, and as soon as he got in the ring, he got on the mic. He kept saying, "They have evil in their midst." So then we see the camera then ends up zooming over to Rosario Dawson. Rosario Dawson was front and center, sitting in the front row. Of course, she's a judge on Go Big Show, which is on TBS. She is a judge along with Cody Rhodes on that show. And Rosario Dawson was wearing a Nightmare Family jacket. So Rosario Dawson ended up coming to ringside, and Rosario Dawson ended up standing up to Malachi Black. So she ended up jumping on Malachi Black's back. Cody Rhodes ended up making his way down through the stands. So we had Malachi Black shrugging Rosario Dawson off his back. Cody Rhodes ended up getting there, and Cody Rhodes and Malachi Black begin brawling. So Cody Rhodes is back. He officially returned to Dynamite. So we had a brawl. Both Rhodes and Black end up making their way through the stands. They were punching each other. So Rhodes then ended up delivering a big punch to Black in the stands. Rhodes then ended up taking a person's drink. He ended up smashing it against Malachi Black as they continued to work up the other stands. And they ended up fighting each other to the back. And then Dynamite went to commercial. So it would have been a good, perfect time there to have picture-in-picture. Like how they always do the picture-in-pictures. You won't miss a second of this. Here is the match in picture-in-picture. We could have had the picture-in-picture of both Black and Rhodes brawling in the back there. So, like right by where the concessions are. We could have saw that. That would have been a good chance right there if they would have done picture-in-picture. But overall, this was a decent segment here. It was good seeing Rosario Dawson there. Of course, the reason why she was only there was to promote Go Big Show on TBS. So, new season of that will be coming up soon. So then it was announced that the Bunny is going to be taking on Anna Jay this Friday on Rampage. So then Alex Marvez was backstage. He ended up going to talk with Anna Jay about Anna Jay making her debut on Rampage, her Rampage debut. And she was there with the Dark Order. And Evil Uno ended up going to say something. But then he got interrupted by Alex Reynolds because he ended up showing up. And so the Dark Order start fighting. Anna Jay ended up saying that if the Dark Order can't get it together, then she doesn't want any of them out there for her match Friday on Rampage. So that was that. Dark Order, little by little, we're seeing the breakup of them. And then we had Dan Lambert. Dan Lambert was in the ring. He had members of his group, the American Top Team is what they're being called. So we saw Kayla Harrison, Paige Van Zandt, I think that's how you pronounce the last name, Junior Dos Santos, Austin Vanderfold, and Andre Lovisky, I think that's how you pronounce the last name. And of course, you had Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky there. So Dan Lambert does his shit talking as usual to the fans about the AEW's product and about wrestling. Man, if Dan Lambert was in WWE, this is what he should be doing if he was signed with WWE. This would make Vince's eyes open even more. Because what Dan Lambert is saying here about the product and wrestling is what WWE should be listening to. Dan Lambert, like I said, was in WWE. He would be saying this shit because of how awful the WWE product is. And that will open possibly Vince's eyes. and knowing that the product is shit. The WWE product. So we had Jericho's music end up hitting. Jericho and Jake Hager end up coming out. And so Lambert ended up saying, oh, turn this shit off. The fans don't even know the lyrics and they have to look it on their phones. So then the crowd then sings Judas, the whole song. Lambert, everybody knows Judas and they're not even looking up the lyrics on their phones. They know the lyrics by heart because they hear it every time that Jericho comes out. So we had Jericho end up saying that it sounds like 15,000 people like his song. He ended up saying that he'd sing Lambert's song, but nobody knows the lyrics to I'm a fat face dipshit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So then we had the crowd end up singing along to that. I'm a fat face dipshit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jericho ended up saying that him and Hager aren't scared of American Top Team. And all they do is try to intimidate. You know what I'm saying? That Hager is undefeated in MMA. And he's dealt with MMA guys backstage. Jericho ended up saying, how about they come to the ring and knock his teeth out? So Lambert ended up saying that if they are going to have a match against Men of the Year, it's going to happen in a real city and not Jersey. So Lambert was like, oh, how about we have this match next week in the Big Apple? So Jericho then ended up accepting. So Jericho ended up saying to Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky that if they are too much of a pussy to face him and Hager in Jersey, then him and Hager will beat them next week. And there will be no escape from New York for you. So that's what Jericho had to say. So again, that match next week should be a entertaining, good match there from Jericho and Hager and Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. But overall, this was an enjoyable segment, in my opinion. And then we saw Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn ended up saying that his gun club ended up attacking Paul White because they wanted to get their point across. Gunn ended up going on to say that as a trio or tag team, they are undefeated. And if records matter so much, they will get the respect, one way or another. So we're going to have the Gun Club in a little feud with Paul White. Oh, God. Do we really need to see Paul White again in the ring? Unbelievable. So now we had Layla Hirsch versus Jay Cargill. Jay Cargill, always impressive whenever she's in the ring. Of course, she had Mark Sterling out there. So we had Layla Hirsch end up trying to go for a takedown on Cargill. Cargill ended up picking up Layla Hirsch, and Hirsch ended up slipping out of it. Cargill ended up going out to the floor. Hirsch delivered a suicide dive, and Cargill ended up pulling Mark Sterling in the way. So Sterling ended up taking the suicide dive from Layla Hirsch. So both women went back into the ring. Cargill ended up backing Layla Hirsch into the corner, started throwing some shots. Hirsch delivered a forearm in the corner to Cargill, and she delivered double knees and another double knee. She went for the cover. Cargill ended up kicking out at 1. Hirsch then ended up going right into the cross arm breaker on Cargill. Cargill ended up lifting Hirsch up, slammed her to the mat. So Cargill kept control of the match here. She was working over Layla Hirsch. Cargill ended up trying to go for a pump kick, but Layla Hirsch ended up moving out of the way. Layla Hirsch tried to go for a German suplex, but Cargill ended up reversing it. Cargill delivered a back elbow to Layla Hirsch. Hirsch then ended up finally getting the German suplex for the bridge, which Cargill ended up kicking out at 2. Cargill rolled out to the floor. Layla Hirsch ended up hitting her with a suicide dive. She ended up throwing Cargill back into the ring, delivered a running knee to Cargill's face. She went for the cover. Cargill kicked out at 2. So at the end of the match, Cargill ended up landing a pump kick to Hirsch's face, and she went for the cover. And there you go. Jay Cargill ended up winning the match. Jay Cargill, still impressive, undefeated, and in no time, she will be your next AEW Women's World Champion. And when that time comes, she's going to have a very lengthy run when she wins the title. So, I'm going to throw that out. That's my prediction. But overall, it was a quick match between them. I mean, we obviously knew that Jay Cargill was going to get the win because of how impressive that they're building her to be. So now we had Andrade El Idolo. Andrade ended up explaining why he got rid of Chavo last week. So Andrade ended up saying that he did not give the order for his assistant to interrupt the match between him and Pac. So Andrade ended up saying that he's the kingpin. So there you go. That was what Andrade had to say. So then we went back to the commentary table, and Taz ended up walking up to CM Punk. Punk was like, "Oh, I didn't know they let trolls cross the bridge." And Taz was wondering if CM Punk was taking his job. You know, Taz does commentary at points for Dynamite. Punk ended up saying that he's not trying to take his job, Taz's job. So Punk ended up getting up out of his chair. Taz ended up backing up because Taz was there with Hook, his son Hook. Taz ended up backing up as Hook ended up staying in Punk's way. Punk ended up walking forward. He ended up staring down at Hook. And then Powerhouse Will Hobbs ends up attacking Punk from behind. Punk was looking to fight back at Hobbs, but Hook ended up locking Punk in the Dragon Sleeper as Hobbs ended up knocking CM Punk. And Hook was screaming to Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and JR to bounce from the table, to get away from the table. So Hobbs then ended up bringing Punk over to the table, and Hobbs ended up slamming Punk down on the commentary table, and the table didn't break, surprisingly. So Punk was just on the floor selling the shot landing on the table. So that was that. So we're going to be getting, Team Taz, possibly Hobbs, possibly Hook to take on CM Punk. So that's going to be Punk's next match, whether it be Hobbs or Hook. So definitely know it's going to be Hobbs. So we'll see CM Punk versus Hobbs soon, very soon. And then we had Shawn Spears versus Darby Allin. Darby Allin was over with the crowd as always. So Darby Allin was sitting in the corner as the bell rang. Of course, Darby Allin ended up coming out along with Sting, Shawn Spears with Tully Blanchard. So Shawn Spears ended up running right over to Darby Allin, started attacking him, and he ended up lifting Darby Allin over the top rope. Darby Allin ended up crashing down to the floor. Shawn Spears then pulled out the ring steps. He ended up slamming Darby Allin's head back against the steps, which looked brutal. So Spears ended up lowering his knee pad, and he ended up charging in. Darby Allin ended up moving out of the way. Spears ended up crashing his knee into the steps. Darby Allin ended up looking to fly and take out Shawn Spears. Tully Blanchard ended up getting in his way. Darby Allin then ended up climbing out to the apron. Shawn Spears ended up tripping Darby Allin, and he ended up crashing down on the apron. Shawn Spears then ended up grabbing a shirt, and he rubbed the face paint off of Darby Allin, which then after that, Spears ended up applying the submission on Darby Allin, but Darby Allin ended up getting to the rope. So Darby Allin ended up coming back, ended up nailing Spears with the code red. He went for the cover. Spears ended up kicking out at 2. So Darby Allin was up on the top rope, started swinging away on Shawn Spears' knee after Spears ended up crashing his knee into the steps. So Darby Allin was just working on Spears' knee. Spears then ended up grabbing Darby Allin by his necklace, started yanking him down to the mat. So both Spears and Darby Allin were on the apron at this point. Spears was looking to go for the C4 on the steps to Darby Allin, but Darby Allin delivered a over-the-top stunner, over the top rope to Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears ended up falling back on the steps. Darby Allin then delivered a suicide dive. He ended up throwing Spears back into the ring, went up to the top, delivered the coffin drop, went for the cover, and there you go. Darby Allin ended up winning the match. Post-match, FTR ended up getting in the ring. They started battling with Sting and Darby Allin. So it was just a brawl between them. Tully Blanchard then ended up coming into the ring. He had a chair in hand. And Tully ended up whacking Sting in the back with the chair. So it barely did anything to Sting. Sting ended up kicking away the chair. FTR ended up attacking Sting from behind. And Sting tried to go after FTR, but FTR was swinging away on Sting. Darby Allin ended up trying to stop FTR, but he didn't have any luck with them because FTR ended up delivering the spike pile driver on Sting, which that looked brutal, with Sting and, his neck. So Tully Blanchard then ended up going up to Sting with a towel. And just like what Shawn Spears did to Darby Allin in the match, Tully then ended up wiping away Sting's face paint. So he ended up throwing the towel on Sting as FTR continued to disrespect Sting. And that was that. But overall, this was a decent match here with Shawn Spears and Darby Allin. Darby Allin still over with the crowd. Darby Allin, my number one favorite in AEW. Just very talented wrestler whenever he has a match. Darby Allin has not even had one bad match yet. And let's continue with him having great matches. The guy always puts on a good performance. So then we have Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson ended up saying that the way the Elite acts and dresses are the way mature people act. Bryan Danielson ended up saying that he's heard and seen how great Kenny Omega is. He ended up also saying that the reality is he's just excited to get back in the ring. Danielson ended up saying, coming to AEW, this will be him at his best, and that he wants a match against Kenny Omega. Bryan ended up saying that everybody here wants to prove themselves. I'm here. I'm game. Let's go. So that was the little promo that Bryan Danielson had to say. And then Tony Schiavone was in the ring. Tony Schiavone was in the ring to talk with Bryan Danielson about getting in the ring with Kenny Omega. So Bryan Danielson ended up going to talk, and then he got interrupted by Don Callis. So Don Callis ended up talking to Bryan Danielson about signing a big contract and coming to the number one company that was built on the back of Kenny Omega. So Callis ended up saying that Bryan came here because he wanted to do what's best for pro wrestling as a whole. And he was like, and people call me a carny piece of shit. So Callis ended up saying that if that's the case, he's a mark like the other people. And Callis ended up saying, who does Bryan think he has to just challenge the champion? And then Bryan Danielson ended up saying, shut up, Don. He ended up saying that he just wants to talk to Kenny Omega. He ended up saying someday it will be about the title, but for right now, it's just about who is better. So he had the crowd doing the yes chant. Callis was like, no, no way. So Bryan ended up telling Callis, shut up, you piece of shit. I came here to talk to Kenny Omega. Bryan ended up saying that he came here to fight the best bout machine and the god of wrestling. But all he's seen is a guy who hangs out with a bunch of goofy stooges. So Danielson ended up wondering if Omega just simply lost his balls along the way. So Bryan ended up asking Kenny Omega, yes or no, if Bryan could have this match with Kenny Omega. So Omega ended up getting on the mic, and Omega ended up accepting the match. And this match will of course happen next week on Dynamite at Grand Slam. So this is going to be a great match between Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. It's going to be an awesome, great match next week. So can't wait to see it. But overall, this was a very enjoyable segment here. So then we saw Miro. Miro ended up saying that his opponents don't usually stick around, and he wonders why Fuego del Sol is still challenging him. Miro ended up saying that he's going to first bash Fuego's brain and then bash his car. So that's what Miro had to say. But we all know Miro's going to be winning next week. Now we saw Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy ended up saying that Orange Cassidy broke his nose, and nobody does that to him. Matt Hardy ended up saying that he's going to take everything from Orange Cassidy, starting with his hair. So there you go, teasing hair versus hair match. That's going to be coming. So then they went over what we're going to see next week on Dynamite and Rampage. Of course, both shows are going to be 2 hours. Dynamite on Wednesday, 2 hours. Next Friday, Rampage, 2 hours. So they went over the matches that we're going to see on Dynamite next week, next Wednesday. It's going to be Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes, their rematch. It's going to be Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer. Going to be a good match there. Brian Pillman Jr. versus MJF. I think MJF is going to get the win over Brian Pillman Jr. Going to have Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson. Another awesome match there that we're going to see. We're going to have a CM Punk interview. Britt Baker is going to be facing Ruby Soho for the AEW Women's World Championship. Well, that's going to be on the line. Britt Baker defending the title. That should be another awesome match there. And we're going to have Sting and Darby Allin versus FTR. So there are your matches for Grand Slam next week on Dynamite. Stacked card right there. And they went over the matches that we're going to see on Rampage next Friday. It's going to be Adam Cole and the Bucks versus the Jurassic Express and Christian Cage. We're going to have Powerhouse Will Hobbs versus CM Punk. Jericho and Hager versus Men of the Year, a.k.a. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. So there you go. Those matches next week on Rampage. But still, it's going to be a 2-hour show. And then we had the main event. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus 2.0. So Moxley and Kingston end up making their way through the crowd. And 2.0 and Daniel Garcia end up attacking Moxley and Eddie Kingston before the bell even rung. Moxley and Parker were in the ring. Moxley end up taking out 2.0. We had Matt Lee get into the match. He ended up getting bit by Moxley. Lee ended up trying to walk away to the stage, but Daniel Garcia ended up throwing Moxley into the stairs. Parker ended up attacking Moxley to put him down. So we had Moxley and Parker going at it. Moxley ended up getting chopped in the corner by Parker. 2.0 ended up trying to do a double team, but they ended up missing there. So we had Moxley end up delivering a lariat on Matt Lee. Kingston ended up getting the hot tag. He ended up throwing a bunch of shots to Bolt 2.0. So at the end of the match, Moxley ended up delivering a lariat and suplex combo on Parker. So there you go. Moxley and Eddie Kingston ended up winning the match. Post-match, Minoru Suzuki, his music ended up playing. So out ended up coming Minoru Suzuki. We saw stitches on his face. He had 7 stitches from the match that he had last week with Moxley. Suzuki then ended up making his way to the ring. Moxley and Eddie Kingston end up facing Suzuki. And so we had Lance Archer end up showing up. So both Moxley, Kingston, and Suzuki and Archer were brawling around ringside. Moxley and Suzuki were swinging away on the table. And they ended up fighting into the crowd, into the stands. And that was how Dynamite went off the air tonight. But overall, Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus 2.0, it was an okay match, an okay main event. Not great or perfect by any means. But overall, good Dynamite tonight. Good show. Very enjoyable show it was. But anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.